I got the opportunity to get into real estate. I didn't get through the first interview. School teacher beat me.
Okay.
And after the school teacher was in that position for 3 weeks, but there's not enough money in this, they got out and they rang me back up again, said, would you like to have a second chance? And I said, give me a chance, I'll prove I can do it. And I broke the office record for the first month.
Going once, going twice, sold. You're listening to The Property Pod.
All right, guys, welcome back to The Property Pod, your weekly engagement into real estate here in the Hobart marketplace. I'm your host, Aaron Horn, and I'm joined, as always, by real estate agents Patrick Berry and John McGregor.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, gentlemen, and happy birthday for yesterday of the date of this recording, Mr. Horn.
Much appreciated. Yeah, I had a wonderful day yesterday, spoilt by my loved ones, especially Sarah and Jack. They made me feel very special. So, yeah.
What, did you say you went on a bike ride that was quite
We
strenuous?
did. It was quite challenging. For Sarah's birthday, I got her a bike, and it was just kind of your marketplace. We'll just get a bike. We'll see if Jack likes it personally, and then we'll go from there. But then for my birthday, she got me a bike seat for Jack to sit on. Because we couldn't use them because we were like, we need to get a babysitter. That's way too much organisation. We'll just jump straight into getting a baby seat, and he loved it. He had the best time. So he raced along the bike track, just smiling and giggling, and we got to Valhalla ice cream and treated ourselves there.
Rode all the way to Valhalla on the back of a mighty steed, is it?
I said something like that. We're riding to Valhalla.
We used to have one of those bike trailers, and I remember once I was towing Quinn up the hill near the cenotaph there, and the bike trailer came unclipped from the back of it, and then went vroom down the hill of the highway there, all the cars. I'm like, oh shit.
Oh, wow. Yeah, okay. No, so we saw a bike trailer.
Seat's good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Seat's connected to bike all time.
Seat is very good. Yeah, no, so we had a wonderful day there. We went to the Tasmanian after that and had some dinner with the family. So, yeah, I got very, very spoilt on my birthday. So, shout out
awesome.
for appreciate the love from everybody.
That's awesome.
Speaking of love, that's actually a really good segue.
Yeah.
I would love for you to introduce today's guest because I think you'd be probably the most equipped at the show, John, to introduce today's guest on the Property Pod.
Yeah, and funny with this bike seat, I remember one of my earliest, happiest memories was on the back of a bike seat actually as a kid. So it's very, very relevant. But I suppose when I was thinking it through, it was actually worth mapping out sort of who this person is, you could say.
Yep.
Just to give context of why it's relevant to the Property Pod specifically. So it's something we put together a long time ago. So I'm going to read it, but I'll do my best.
Yeah, go for it.
So it just says, so when it comes to the concept of giving back, there aren't too many agents around Australia that have dedicated their career to not only being a competent operator, but have taken the time to do more than just build a successful business. For over 35 years, he has shared his knowledge to mentor countless new agents and volunteered his time to numerous boards and charity organisations in order to lift the credibility of the industry and its positive involvement within the community. He joined the real estate industry in 1986 and as a salesperson was the number one salesperson in the state for multiple years. In 1994, he became the managing director of First National Real Estate, I'll omit the name, of which he and his wife ran for 26 years. While being part of the First National Real Estate Network, he served on the National Board of Directors for 4 years as well as being the Tasmanian president. He is the longest-serving member of the board on the board of the Real Estate Institute of Tasmania, the REIT, starting in 1989 and was elected state president from 1998 to 2000. He also served on the Real Estate Institute of Australia board from 2004 to 2010 and as the deputy president of the REIA in 2009 to 2010. To this day, he remains an REIT trainer, helping teach the new members coming into the industry. He was also a past National Australian President for FIABSI, which is the French acronym for the International Real Estate Federation based in Paris. He is a Fellow of the Real Estate Institute of Australia, Fellow of the Australian Institute of... Fellow of the Australian Marketing Institute and CPM, Fellow of the Australian Institute of Management and a Fellow of the Australian Institute of Company Directors. He has been a member of the National Association of Realtors Global Business and Alliances Group USA and an honorary member of the SBAOR Global Real Estate Committee California USA. He has served as an REIA National Awards Judge for Excellence since 2006 and is also a FIABSI Prix d'Excellence International Awards Judge from 2012. In 2009, he was the recipient of the prestigious John Gregg Trophy for services to the real estate industry, and at the September 2013 REIT Awards night held in West Point, he was awarded the life membership of the Real Estate Institute of Tasmania, which is the highest honour that the REIT can bestow. Welcome to my father, Chris McGregor.
Thank you, John.
Welcome, Chris.
Wowzers, trousers, what an intro. I don't know if we've ever had anything like that on the show, but welcome to the show, Chris. And
And thanks for coming.
Mm.
Unfortunately, we've run out of time forward to actually interview you because John's intro was so long, but it was a good show.
Decent resume, you could say.
what an interesting kind of, just running through that, like I thought I knew a fair crack of it, but all this kind of France and Paris and all this extra stuff, how did you get involved in, well, actually, before we even jump into that, how did you get involved into real estate? Where's kind of, did it say 1986?
Yeah, the year we were born. Yeah.
Yeah, so what were you doing before then, and then what happened to...
I was the assistant manager at the Mount Nelson Motor Inn prior to that, and before that I did my training managership at West Point. I was there for about 5 or 6 years, and one of those sort of particular jobs, once you get in, sometimes in management roles, you get a set salary, and no matter what you do, to try and make some extra income, it's very, very hard to do. And in those days, you always had people ramming Amway down your throat and all that sort of stuff, and it just wasn't for me. And I used to see some of the real estate guys from the early days, from the can't think of the guy's name, from in town. And those guys were always seemed to look like they're doing okay. And I realised that real estate's one of those jobs that that gives you an opportunity to earn what you can but in the comfort zone environment that you've got a team of management that looks after you. A lot of people would love to get into business themselves but are too frightened to take the next step of what the risks it takes to have your own business, where real estate's got one of those opportunities where you get out what you put into it, but you've got the environment of support through an office. Particularly like 414 Real Estate,
yeah,
that
definitely
offers their salespeople. So it's a good stepping stone to if you ever want to tread water even further. But most people sort of don't.
Yeah, no, it sounded really interesting. As you were saying that, I was thinking like it's one of those industries where you get out what you put in. Like if you want to be a really, really hard operator and get out there and get it, you can jump up some rungs and get yourself ahead rather than kind of you're kind of plateauing in your other positions sort of thing and thinking like, geez, I'm working my butt off and that bloke over there sitting there doing nothing, and he's earning the exact same crust as me. So
Yeah, absolutely.
it's interesting. What it sounded like from there you then jumped up in the ranks. So you obviously had quite a bit of motivation to move. I think 86 you started, then by did you say 94 you were running your own shop?
Yeah, well, I guess having 3 boys at that point, Dad's going to put some motivation for you to make some money.
Well, that was the case too. Then I got the opportunity to get into real estate. I didn't get through the first interview. School teacher beat me.
Okay.
And after the school teacher was in that position for 3 weeks, but there's not enough money in this, they got out and they rang me back up because, again, said, would you like to have a second chance? And I said, give me a chance, I'll prove I can do it. And I broke the office record for the first month of the office where I worked. I sold 8 sales. I had 8 sales my first month of real estate.
Straight out of the gate, you had 8 sales.
2 weeks, nothing. I started to panic.
Yep.
And then bang, 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 which was great. Then I was disappointed with my 6 sales the next month, but
You set the bar too high.
yeah. And then I started to. I really wanted to learn. And in those days, most homes were sitting around $50,000, $45,000.
Yep.
$40,000.
So a little different to today.
And the commission, the full commission to the business was $1,660, and you got either 20% of that or 40%. So it was hard work.
Yep.
And we had a growing family, and so you had to really get out there and do your things. So I didn't know any better, and then I sort of made the goal. I was so keen to make these sales. One of the salespeople come up to me and said that you need to be learning how to fill out contracts and all that sort of stuff. Yet I said, but I need to make sales to make the living. And he said, well, you'll never be any better than me. So I made it my goal to beat the bottom salesperson in the office. And I realised later that wasn't a very good goal. So then I sort of went through the steps of looking at the team in the office and watching what they did. And I learned very quickly that you can learn from the poor people, but just don't do what they're doing.
Yeah, almost take some of their bad examples and just be like, all I have to do is
Exactly, not that.
yeah, exactly. Work my way up from there, and
which was my goal. And then by the end of the 12 months, I ended up being the top salesperson, which was really good to mine. And then, of course, in those days, we had the multi-list system in Tasmania.
So could you Could you explain that just for any listeners out there that that doesn't make too much sense to me? I'm sure the other agents would understand, but
Multi-list, I thought, was a very good system. It was operated through the Real Estate Institute of Tasmania, and you could have a salesperson that would list the property, but normally in those days you don't take a listing for 30 days. And so the multi-list was another opportunity to extend your control over the listing, but at the same time it opened it up to the rest of the real estate agents in Hobart or in Tasmania. And what it meant was you'd sign up the agency to the Real Estate Institute, that form would get sent into the institute, they would process it, and then that copy of that listing would go to every agency outside of that.
Oh, okay, yep.
And so then you still had control of the listing,
Yep.
but it was open to all the other agents to show the property and sell it.
Is this kind of like, have you guys talked before about the bus that would travel around and you go to different listings? Is this?
This was happened every Thursday for the northern suburbs, happened at Roberts Real Estate, which Patrick Berry's grandfather used to run there, and he used to come to those tours as well.
Yep.
He was an absolute gentleman, and it was a good fun morning from 9:30 every Thursday to go and to people's listings. And
I can just imagine the bus
just
ride
the bus
together.
of
It
agents
feels
just
like
riding around.
kind of leaving high school and getting on the bus at I'm on the back seat, and no, don't go and get in Chris's spot. He's he's the best seller at their one, and I actually really like the sounds of that.
Yeah.
And also the city had the bus, but we had we brought our own cars, and of course it was always my goal to have the best looking car, because people say how things are going. You'd always say unbelievable.
I have noticed that the drink bottle on the desk here has Porsche written up down the side of it, and I know that just recently you had a Porsche club show. Was getting the flashy car, was that one of the first treats of being a successful real estate agent?
I've always liked quite nice cars for a very long time. It's been one of my hobbies, but I got into Porsches about 7 years ago, and I've got to say it's my favourite
Oh, so
car.
that's only recent. I thought that you were a long-term Porsche man.
No, I had Mercedes before that.
Ah, nice. Yes, very nice.
And Volvos. Don't take
Oh,
them.
so yeah, you
Don't discredit the Volvo,
leveled your way up across the board.
Volkswagens, good cars.
the moving tank.
Ah, very good.
What was that? Was it some interesting stuff that used to happen on those bus tours? I remember there was a lesson you at, like in training, with like how to lose a listing, and it's just what was it? A guy had got off a.
Oh, we had a situation where I won't tell you who the company was, because they're still about. But because the listing agent would open the property to all the rest of the agents to show them what they're going to do.
Yep.
And he was knocking on the door, and the owner's cat started to curl around his leg, and he just looked at me and said, "Don't you just hate cats?" And he's flung his leg up in the air, and I'm watching this cat flying through the air. And as the door opened, the vandals inside saw this happen. Well, he lost a listing over that.
I can imagine. So yeah.
So I took a note to myself: don't hurt people's cats.
It doesn't help when you've got 10 other agents there lined up right behind him.
And one of the other ones was, I remember doing a negotiation out at New Norfolk, and before that, I used to show this property. This seven-year-old little girl used to always follow me around the house, pointing to the kitchen, the bathroom, and all that sort of stuff. And I'm sort of, thank you very much, get out of the way. But on the night of trying to put it together, Mum was on one side of the table, Dad was on the other side of the table, and a little 7-year-old girl sitting in front of me. And I said, we've had the property on the market for 3 months. We've had 15 inspections and all that sort of stuff. And this is the first offer we've got that it's worth really considering.
Yep.
And it's $55,000. And this little girl looked at her mum, looked at her dad, and looked at me, and she said, "We'll take it." and they both looked at each other. Why not? Not here's your $20, kid. You know? so then I made it myself to be nice to little kids.
Yep. I love it. It's such an interesting, because it's such a personable profession where you're meeting so many different types of people across the just the gamut of personalities. Like you're either meeting a cat lover or someone with kids, or you're meeting Joe Blow, who's like literally done nothing to his house and knows it's worth more than any other bloke on the street, even though all the grass is overgrown. And I guess it's one of those things where I know you've worked as a trainer across the REIT. How do you give advice on those interpersonal relationships of kind of passing on, like, don't treat people bad and
Well, you don't have to live with these people for very long. So you always got to make sure that, and it's hard to do 'cause in real estate, is to be a good listener, because you've got where we're always very want to give all our information, our advice, and a lot of us, a lot of real estate people do have a bit of an ego. So a lot of them need it really. They've got to be able to push their own barrow. But at the same time, you've got to give them, because sometimes you can go to somebody that they spoke all day, through the whole entire presentation. You've hardly said anything. And they walk out and they say, "Gee, he was a nice person," because they were given the freedom to
just talk
and all that sort of stuff, and get off their
for sure.
chest.
Yep.
Where we can sometimes, I've been in presentations where you see some of the salespeople really, they just can't get them to shut up, and sometimes they just keep going when it's the time for them to stop, when the person's about to say, "Here's the listing," and they're ready on, it's still going, and haven't heard. They're not listening to. Not only are they listening to what they're saying, they're not listening to what they're actually what they're wanting.
Definitely.
And an example would be, sometimes we'll say to people, we really do need you to probably put a lick of paint on this here and do that. It'd really help. Oh, we don't want to do that. And what they're actually probably saying to you is they don't have the money to do it. But they're too embarrassed. So you've got to be able to listen to those little tiny things. I think it's very important.
Yeah, for sure. And so I guess, is that something that you think you picked up maybe working in hospitality and kind of at Rest Point and stuff before that, is being attentive to people's needs and then transferring it across?
I think the hospitality industry teaches you service. It teaches you how to customers always right and all those sort of things.
Yep.
The other skills in real estate, because those sort of skills you learn by experience. I've made a lot of mistakes. I mean, I bought a brand new car, had it in someone's brand new driveway, and he kept saying, "Is it leaking oil? Is it leaking oil?" And I'm going, "No, this is a brand new car. It's great." What he was telling me was, "Get your car out of my driveway."
Yep.
And I wasn't listening to those signals.
Yeah, for sure.
You learn all those sort of things. It's like when your partner's driving along, she said, "We'd like a cup of coffee," and then you say no, and you just keep driving, and all of a sudden she's not talking to you for half an hour. And you realise what she was saying was, "I want a coffee." So
that's fair.
You got to. What real estate? You come, and Patrick and John would be able to agree to this, that you sometimes you become quite like a psychiatrist for a lot of people, and a sounding board for their problems, all sorts of things. You're there for them.
Well, hearing those little comments a few times, even just that car one, that was something you taught me early, because the vendor will just say to me, "Oh, you should just park in the driveway." Even if like you just this long walk right up this bush road, it's like you still park at the street because you just do not know who you're going to block off, and it could just be waiting for another part of the family has been waiting to get into their spot that you just got into, and they're like, so you got to win both parties in that sense. And one's just like, "No, I hate that guy." Why? He won't say why, but it's because you parked in his space. He's like instantly dislikes you.
Yeah, even going in and taking photos, like if it's an old house, a new house, any house, I'll get there with me and Sebastian and we'll both take our shoes off, and you'll get every time, or majority of the time, but no, don't worry about taking your shoes off. And it's like, oh, no force of habit. It's just kind of...
Can't help it though.
Yeah, and it's kind of, it's a polite thing to do, unless I've got smelly socks on, which...
Or holes.
Does happen, yeah. I have my days. But thank you, Sarah, for the new socks yesterday. So I've got about 2 weeks of
solid socks.
Solid socks. I think just from there, we might just jump to John, go to another McGregor, and just say, what was it like growing up with Dad as a real estate agent? Was it something that you saw and thought, oh, that's something I definitely want to kind of jump into? I know we've kind of touched on it previously.
Yeah.
But your path into working with your dad and then now alongside, and can you give us kind of what it's like to work along with the accolades that we went across? Was quite amazing to kind of follow in those footsteps and
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But it's sort of difficult to remember with the,
He never saw me.
Yeah, that's probably the best way. Well, because he's right, but you think about how hard you used to have to work, or always did, and it wasn't always and it wasn't a desire, it was a sacrifice. A lot of time to support the family.
Yep.
And we're then at for us, I suppose, then we could look back and be eternally grateful for the hard work that it did for us. And when I got into it though, is not so much, I suppose, looking as a desire to be a real estate agent so much. It's actually more so something that I've really enjoyed as I've matured, surprisingly enough, because I've been able to recognise what the business can offer, and like Dad described as well, where as a salesperson you are it's your business within a business. So, Pat has to take all the burden, the responsibility, these days, like Dad did all those time ago, where of overarching the responsibility for everyone, and we
Yep.
get to just focus on our little niche.
Yeah, for sure.
And with that comes the capacity to earn a good income and also have the freedom to control your time, which now I'm starting to understand is, more valuable than the money, as well. And when it came to one of the things I really appreciated, I suppose in my career specifically, is because Dad was always involved with all the management of the industry, like that influence, is that I had a very different perspective that probably most other agents don't get, which is not only if you've got your own little niche where you think you know everything, but then looking outside of from the board levels, like there's legislation that that has to be influenced that will make our job easier, and who helps service the industry and service the public.
Yeah, for sure.
And I always had a really unique perspective that I had a global view, I suppose you could say, rather than just a day-to-day one.
Yep.
And it was very interesting when I'd have a conversation with, agents 20 years my senior who have very little understanding of what they're actually talking about. So they could, and to give you an example, there might be complaints like, I can't believe they put this into the contract. How stupid is that? It's like, well, where are you, volunteering your time to help influence maybe in the direction that you want rather than just whinging about it?
Yeah, for sure.
So that's probably been one of the best things for me, is to have a real, a top-down perspective or a much wider view than your own selfish perspective. And I think that's where Dad's influence of his volunteering time on the boards, etc., over above as a salesperson, businessman, etc., really helped me and my perspective and my maturity, probably not only in business but as a person as well. Is like there's more to this story than you think.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's a really good kind of pivot point for getting into how you've gone from just an operator making, 6 sales, or was it 6 sales or 8 sales?
What was your best month?
My best month in my career was 23 sales and 15 listings in the 1 month.
Yeah.
That's
pretty
so
good.
Wow. I was going to pivot into how did you get into all the volunteering, and how do you even do that? How do you even manage that many listings and then still find listings across? That's more than one a day.
It's madness.
You need, if you're just doing the same thing all the time, it does make Jack a dull boy. And you've got to have other little interests on the side. But
Yep.
also, too, I learned very quickly in the early days, these institutes and things, Rotary, all those sort of things are there that do a lot of good. And these businesses wouldn't survive without those industries looking after you. Like sometimes we'll have when the new contract was coming out, a lot of the politicians and things like that were having ideas of making 15 days cooling off periods and all those sort of things. And this is where the industry fought very hard to stop that sort of thing happening.
Yep.
Because we realised when we're out in the field, those sort of things just wouldn't work. But if we didn't have the board or and the institute fighting for those sort of things, we'd have a very different environment to work in. And it just makes it better for our industry, better for the public and our clients as well. But all sort of volunteering too. Patrick's father, Paul, he's the president of the Rotary and all those they do just amazing work and without all that sort of volunteering, selfless sort of work, what sort of where would we be? So it's very important.
I guess again, part of being an agent is being a member of the community and actually
giving back
and kind of having that presence in the community to be like, I'm not here just because I want to drive my flash car. I'm here to kind of better the community. And
I think the really good agents are great at excuse me, connecting with the community, and they want to build the community because they believe in it.
Yep.
It's not just a job to most agents. We work the areas we choose because we enjoy working within them and we enjoy the people that live within them. So some people will say we join these clubs and community groups and that because we want to get work, and sure, it's a byproduct of that, but the main reason is we enjoy the community we live in.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think you can just see through the difference between someone who's there just to get something from you versus someone who's there because they want to be there for nothing else but this is what I want to contribute to.
Yeah, definitely.
Because Dad, where is it that we said that you were on the board since 1989? So
I've been on the RO2 board since '89. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Because that was one thing that's it's interest when we talked about stories was. A lot of some really hard decisions that you've had to be a part of, even with First National and the REIT, etc. How have you actually managed to be able to, keep that space in your mind to do sales, business, and with the board? Like, how have you been able to manage that?
One of the things to have a good board, you've got to have good directors. It's like having a good team, all that sort of stuff, and you've got to have good leadership. One of the things I learned, because I'm with the company directors, and one of the big roles with the board is 50% of your time is to make sure you've got the right CEO. So if you've got the wrong CEO, things can go pear-shaped pretty quickly. You don't want the dog wagging the tail, or what the whale wagging the dog and things like that. So once you've got that nailed down, and it's critical that you get good members that are on the board that want to be there for their members, not for their own personal gain, because a lot of times you'll have a problem with someone, so that's not going to work, and we don't like that either in our area. But yes, but is it good for our industry? Like, for example, some would turn around and say that the cooling off period was one of the things I didn't like the idea, and we managed with hard work to get a choice where you could tick the box of using it or not having it on there or not. Where other people didn't have. When people sometimes come up with the decisions, they don't actually play the game of chess in their head to find out this is what the result's going to be down the track if we go with that decision. Because they wanted to introduce cooling off periods in auctions as well. And again, that wouldn't work. And the reason why they've got auctions are so big in Victoria is because they had the cooling off period for years and years. And the auction period got rid of that. So once the hammer went down, the house was sold. And a lot of people make decisions on a property, and then they sell theirs, and then they bought this. Say if they bought the auction on unconditional, then for 3 days later you got someone pulled out on the property. So that auction system finished that.
Well, and that I suppose that's where. I suppose with the public as well, there is such flexibility in the Tasmanian contract because the Law Society and the REIT have always ensured that we had control in the sense that it was to allow flexibility. Like you said, is that on the field the consumers are protected, but it still allows for a lot of negotiation.
I think Tasmania's got one of the best systems for purchasing property in Australia. It's a very good. It's what we've worked for very hard with the Law Society is very workable.
Well, one of the things that I suppose you could say I learned from Dad too is how to keep a deal together, because that was I remember when you got into First National Real Estate McGregor, which you went into partnership with Don Neal, 1994. Was one of the things I remember you said very quickly you had to earn the respect of the staff because who's this whippersnapper? But you started to get deals together that people couldn't.
I had one where, and that was true, that everybody's looking at you because when you go into a new business, you can't go telling everybody you're going to a new business beforehand. You just got to rock up at the time, and they had these 2 units out of Goodwood owned by an ex-hotelier, and they were $10,000 apart. And the one wouldn't come down and the other one wouldn't come up.
Don't you hate those people?
Just this, and they said they just can't do it. And I said, give me the contract. And I rang the owners, and I used. They said, don't bother coming around. I'm not taking any less. And I said, I'm not there for that. I just I'm the new director, and I'd like to come and say hello and introduce myself to my clients. I said, fair enough. Got that. Got him down $5,000. Rang the buyer. And he said, I'm not interested. I said, I'm just the new director. I want to come say hello, have a coffee. And after sitting down with him half an hour, got him up to $5,000. Walked back to the office, got the deal together. And the owner, the vendor said to me, he said, thanks for doing that because I would have come up, would have come down, but your salesperson was too gutless to come and see me.
Wow.
And I learned something from that day. You've got to, again, what people say to you all the time are not necessarily what they're thinking because they're using it to bluff. That's what negotiation's about, isn't it?
Definitely.
The first person speaks loses. And that was good. I walked back into the office and they could see that I could negotiate.
You could do, yeah.
It was good.
Speaking of being able to negotiate, I think one of the first. I'm not a real estate agent, so I don't have to learn any of the tricks of the trade. But one of the first tricks I learnt from you was the old pen in the top pocket trick. I think. We're probably going to have to wrap up pretty soon, but I just wondered if you could run over the pen in. We don't want to give away trade secrets, but I think within 2 weeks of being here, I'd learned about the pen in the top pocket.
It's been a little bit different in this particular market, but often, and Patrick and John will know that when the people want to make an offer, they come in pretty silly and pretty hard sometimes.
Yep.
And because you got your pen out, of course, with the agreement in front of you to start
filling out the
form.
Yep.
And you might have a property that's on the market for $400,000, and they turn around and say we want to offer $350,000. So I just get my pen and just start putting them back in my pocket. And they said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I thought you said you wanted to buy it." And they said, "We do." Well, I'll pull my pen out and let's start from scratch, shall we? Let's get them back on track.
It's so interesting
quite powerful.
Because even in that moment, like that story with this vendor, is it, with the influence that an agent can have, we're actually just bringing people the opportunity that they want to make. But sometimes they just need that encouragement, and sometimes it can be a fun little, pen back in the pocket, or like your vendor said, I just wanted someone that with a, some. Just to say, hey, you got to do this. Like, all right, done. Just need someone that he could respect,
Oh, it stuck in my head straight away. I said, Chris has come in and he's talked about this top pocket tree. Oh, what's this top pocket thing? And then when he explained it to me, I was like, that's real good. Yeah, that's real good.
Yeah, exactly.
Remember, our role at the end of the day is to keep the vendor and purchaser apart, so we can get them together.
Get them together.
I like that. Yeah, that's actually a really good kind of button to finish the show on.
Yeah, exactly. God, we haven't scrapped the service, but thanks, Dad.
No, yeah, look, I think this is one where we could do a 3-part series and continue to, we could do the beginning, the middle, and I don't think the end's anywhere soon. I think you've got plenty of years ahead of you in...
Yeah, no, I'm enjoying it here.
Excellent. Glad to hear. I think, unless you guys have got anything else to cover off on...
I'm pretty good. I've been quiet all day, so I'll just keep on that.
It's nice when Pat's in the corner and there's plenty of conversation going on. We've had a good episode. So thank you so much for coming in. Thank you for having John and letting us get to know him as a young whippersnapper. And the future is bright for the McGregor clan.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having me on.
Not a problem.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Bye. You have been listening to The Property Pod, recorded and edited by 414 Media House in conjunction with 414 Property Code.
This podcast is general information only, and the thoughts and views expressed is the opinion of our panel, and listeners should always seek then use their own investigation into any topic we discuss to ensure they fully understand their own situation.
It does not constitute and should not be relied on as purchasing, selling, financial or investment advice or recommendations, express or implied, and it should not be used as an invitation to take up any agent or investment services. No investment decision or activity should be undertaken on the basis of this information without first seeking qualified and professional advice.